All right, good evening. It's Thursday night, cold, icy night today. A lot of us stayed home. A lot of us stayed home last night as well, as we noticed from the stands yesterday. This is Bobby Blackjack. This is the Hall Hoops and Happenings show, our debut show. The success of the pregame show, as we all know here, has been very successful so far. And we just decided to really go out there and do something maybe once a week on non-game nights. So there's no conflict of watching the men's or the women's team or being there or whatnot. And, we might continue this through, March Madness, the Big East tournaments for both teams and see what happens. And maybe scale back a little bit to once a month, maybe talk about some recruiting. Of course, any big happenings with the programs or any of the sports teams of Seton Hall and whatnot. Go ahead and we'll do like more of a monthly show or, breaking news type of thing. But I'm going to get my stuff on the producing side going here. Again, to my right, we have Nick from Milburn, my co-host. Nick, what's up?
Hey, Bobby, how are you doing tonight, my guy?
Not too bad. Below me, Chris Jones.
What's going on?
SOU fame. And then diagonal, Nick Morgan, the 21-year-old kid who's still celebrating his birthday, I think. He's also part of the band. And, we're going to talk about the women's team. I do have a show tomorrow going live right here on the same platforms with the Coach Boz Show, where we're going to have Faith and Savannah Catalan on tomorrow. So that should be a real good show as well. So I'm going to do my thing. Nick, take over. Again, what are your thoughts? Like I mentioned before the show, guys, and I want to get this out to the audience, either who's going to watch live or, after the fact. This is a day of healing. I mean, we took a butt licking last night. And, even Jerry Carino in his article said, hey, the messages are being sent now that things have to change. Nick, take over from here.
Hey, thank you, Bobby. So last night, I think a big message was sent, and it was even before the game started. I mean, attendance was like 2,000 people. I mean, yes, it wasn't, the greatest night in the world, but the program, this is our low point. We have had 9 years where we have winning records and one of the best basketball conferences in the country, the Big East. This harkens back. And I was talking to a manager from this team, from the 1983 team, Gene Burley. 1983 team was P.J. Carlissimo's first year, and they won 6 games. We are at 6 wins right now. And to be quite honest, I don't know where win number 7 is. I mean, we could very possibly end with 6 wins. So is this the low point? Is this the start of the low point? There has to be changes. The program is at a fork in the road right now. If we don't make changes, and we know what that is, ergo NIL money, we can be at the bottom of the Big East for a very long time. And it's hurtful right now. And I've been with this program, longer than everyone here. And you guys are all great Pirates. And I have seen ups and I have seen downs. But I need to know that at this low point, how is it going to be turned around? What's the plan? What are we going to do? Because sometimes, you do have to hit rock bottom to make the turn. And, we have a great coach. We have a great athletic director. This NIL, and I know a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it's real. You have Mike Rapoli from St. John's. He's matching up to $1 million of NIL donations with St. John's. And we just don't have that right now. And I know, myself and, Nicole Gizzi and Tom Eccles, we bought bricks, we contributed. But let's face it, Nick from Milburn's $500 brick donation isn't going to turn this around like the vitamin water guy. So those are just my thoughts. Before I turn it over to my guy, Chris Jones, Chris, I go on the radio. I get out of work last night. I'm all excited to put it on. I'm like, I'm going to hear Chris because I think you're fabulous. And I got the women's game on. I'm like, what? Who made it? I mean, I love Joe Morales. I talked to him today. But was that Joe's call? Come on, Joe. Chris.
Yeah, well, because the rule with it, because WSU is the flagship station for women's basketball. So anytime they're both playing at the same time, you will hear the women's game on the airwaves. And the men's game will be on WSU.net. So that's normally the case when both teams play at the same time.
But did you start on WSOU? Was that my understanding? And then they kind of preempted it?
Yeah, yes, because our game was at 6. Since the men's was at 6:30, we were on for like the first 30 minutes. But then when 7 o'clock hit and the tip off for the women's game, they then took over.
Because I had people call me saying, Nick, you said the men's game was going to be on SOU. I'm like, oops, sorry. Anyway, so Chris, what do you think about? And before we get to Nicholas Morgan, what do you think about last night, and where do you think this program is, and where do you think it's headed?
Yeah, so after watching last night, it was a tough watch. As you said, I was there for WSU alongside Bobby Steiner. We were calling the game. It just seemed like we were very off foot. This was not a team I saw all season because, again, we've understood the struggles they've had for majority of the season. That it was different last night. I've never seen this team struggle as much as they did last night, specifically defensively. Because, again, Butler's not a bad team, but they're not a great team. They were bottom 3 in the conference coming into that game against us, and they played like they were top 3. Like that's just what we saw last night. But we kind of gave it to them. Our defense was not there. Our perimeter defense was not good. I mean, going into that game, we were allowing about 36% from behind the arc. But if I remember correctly, I think they shot 50%. Like they made like 12 3-pointers last night, and that's what killed us. They shot 12, and we maybe shot 1 for 15 from behind the arc. That was the big key difference. No one could make their shots. No one could find the rim. No one could find the backboard even. That's what it felt like. Nothing was going in our favor. And specifically, Isaiah Coleman was almost non-existent for a good 30 minutes. I believe up until 10 minutes left in the second half, he still had 0 points. He was not a factor even in the slightest last night until I think he got a layup late in the second half. So when your star player like Isaiah Coleman can't even get a point on the board until that point in the game, it's kind of hard that you're going to expect to win. And yeah, I know it doesn't help that you're getting injury plagued all season. Adewusu didn't play last night. Jenkins still has not come back since St. John's, and Middleton just missed his second game. So obviously that's not helping you, but still overall, this team was just picked apart last night.
And real quick comment by Scott Jones. I love it. First part, I said this today. Remember, not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear your path.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's, I like it. It's a sign that that maybe something needs to be done, right? Oh, by the way, another thing I want to mention real quick before we get to Nick down there on the bottom. I think Michael Frank, another guy, a great guy from our a group or inner group who runs the Facebook group, mentioned that he heard somewhere that Rick Pitino is eyeing Isaiah Coleman for next year. You know, when I responded in the group, I said, if that happens, then I mean it's already ridiculous. But now you're gonna have teams with more money like vulturing other teams now. I mean that seems to me like a whole set of other laws out there. Hey, this is not NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, where you find a weaker thing, you go to grab them. This is college sports. These are young kids who are trying to get an education and play a sport to the best of their abilities. And now you're going to say he knows that we're weak. Now he's going to go in and jump and take Isaiah Coleman from us next year. If that happens, I think Sean and him are going to fight in midcourt. I mean, I would join him in a heartbeat because enough's enough already. We got, like Nick said from Milburn, that guy's got a lot of money, that vitamin water guy. But come on, there's got to be some kind of regulations to stop this. But then again, I read a lot of college football stuff, being a big Notre Dame fan. The corporate money is almost about to hit college sports. So hopefully we reside where we're based in the tri-state area. There's got to be someone out there, or corporations or fans with a lot of money and come in and save us like he did for St. John's.
Yeah, let me just jump in. That's exactly right. And I heard Jay Billis and on the air, and Jay Billis was talking about the NIL, and that was his point, Bobby. It's like, we're crying that it's a horrible thing right now. But what Jay turned around and said, the flip side, it is giving anyone quote, anyone the opportunity to be a major player in college sports. All they need is a guy or someone with a lot of money that wants to take an interest in your program. Totally different than what we're used to in college sports, but that's the lay of the land now. It's just plain and simple. That is it. And, when they instituted the NIL, no one knew it was going to go down this road, but it has.
Hey, Bill, if you check your Facebook Messenger, I invited you to the show tonight, Bill. If you want to join us on the show, Bill's one of my media guys. Bill, let me know and I'll send you the link. But look at your Messenger. I sent you a link or an invite to the show today. What's up, Bill? One more thing also, and this kind of hit me before when I was setting up and waiting for the guys to join us. Not only is it going to affect our players, now we all know how Coach Shaw bleeds pirate blue, but there's still people who are going to remember what great a job he did the past couple of years here and at St. Peter's, and may think they have a chance to get him, pennies on a dollar because maybe he's fed up, and then they're going to have this huge bank vault of money for him to operate. So that might even affect our head coach too. And I'll be mad at him, but not you can't blame him either because it is what it is now in the college world.
Yeah, so like our fans, a good number of them, are blaming this on him, which is absurd. And they're blaming him while other schools are eyeing him as their coach. It's ridiculous. Come on.
And then I just jump in really fast. I don't know who it was on the Facebook page last night or 2 nights ago who said it, so I apologize. I'm going to give you props and a shout out here, but I like the comment where is it that Shaw utilized the money he had incorrectly, or did he just is this all the money he had and all he could afford, or could he have afforded a little bit more and this is just what we ended up with? I really like that because I think people are assuming that this is the best that Shaheen could have done, but you really you can't say either way. You don't know how much he was given. You don't know what else was out there, what else he could have gotten for a similar price or equal price. So I did like that comment. I thought it was, something that people really aren't thinking about too much. So again, shout out to whoever said it on the Facebook page under one of the comments and threads yesterday. I thought that was a good thing to start thinking about for us.
Yeah, I'm glad people are at least talking about that.
Yeah.
Because it is a good thing. But one thing we do know is that whatever money he had was less than anyone else in the Big East. And I've said this repeatedly. He's not Brian Cashman. He's not a GM. And someone said I was ludicrous when I said, we need a GM, but, Villanova has a GM. Lots of schools have GMs now. I don't even know if we could afford a GM, but we need someone, like you said, Nick, to construct a roster, to scout, to put the pieces together, to figure out what resources we have and the best way to utilize those resources. You're right, Nick. Nick, anything else to say? We haven't gotten to you yet.
Yeah, Chris kind of touched on it last night, but I was going to start off with my men's recap. I see last night did not stand for Isaiah Coleman. It stood for ice cold. 1 for 10 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3. And the only 3-pointers that were made, we went 2 for 17, which was a mere 11.8%. The only 3-pointers are from David Tubeck and Gus Yalden. And at that point, if those are our only guys who are shooting successfully from downtown, that right there is a big issue too. Yeah. Because I love David Tubeck. I'm a big DT fan. He's not shooting threes well. Gus, he'll make the occasional 3-point shot, but those are the only 2 guys, and they each only made 1 3-point bucket. It's definitely alarming. Prince had a 17-point night, went 7 for 15 from the field, probably one of his better turn-ins from a game performance-wise in a while. But going off of the loaded money stuff, I think in that group chat that we have for all of the people that run the pregame show here, I think Nicole Gizzi a couple weeks ago sent out that Moneyball article about Washington State and their men's basketball program from 2021. And, maybe that's something that we can try to turn the page and look towards now as well, because it's going to be, if it's a matter of not having money, might as well really not have the money and go for straight statistics and sabermetrics over any sort of big name contracts and recruits. And I think if Pitino really does want Coleman for next year and it's becoming personal, that's Pitino was quoted to say after the St. John's beating that, we endured, that we could have kept Kadari if the money was the same and it was nowhere close. He acknowledges that we're the bottom team in the Big East when it comes to money. So I think it really becomes personal at that point, and we might have to start, this kind of Moneyball-like approach that Washington State men's basketball did, and of course the Oakland Athletics notoriously started in 2002 for Major League Baseball. So definitely a thought but it's been tough.
Real quick, we had a comment from the Gister, who still, by the way, Nicole, you still have not been on camera yet, and we're keeping tabs for you. But here's a question for Chris.
Yeah. Calling the game and watching the game wasn't too easy because, again, obviously you're there, you're on air for the station, you're trying to be positive when the game's not really going in your favor. I'll never really forget. There are a few incidents where Seton players have like a fast break or whatever, and they win for a dunk. And my play-by-play commentator, Bobby Steiner, we were down, mind you this, we were down 20-25 at this point. I've never heard Bobby get so excited, even for a dunk, while we were still down 20 points. Like, we still had to make it somewhat exciting for a game that was kind of rough. But I also want to point on something that Nick just mentioned. Gus Yalden had that three last night. That was the first three of his season. He was 0 for 10 going into that game. He has not made one all season long. I'll never forget, he made that three. I looked down at my stat sheet, and I saw that Gus Yalden was shooting 0% all season long. So when one of your guys who makes a three last night is someone who has not made one all season long, is a little concerning. And then also David Tubeck getting the other one. It just, every part of the game last night was not there. And even to the point where David Gabriel, a walk-on, who has not, he's played a total of 2 minutes going into that game. He found his way onto the court last night. At that point, Sean knew what was going on. He wanted to get some of his other players some time, but it was a rough going towards the end, especially once Gus made that three and once Gabriel hit the court. That's when we knew there was we were just waiting for the game to come to a close.
Nick Morgan and Chris, you made a point now about our three-point shooting, and Nick Morgan said, it gets a little ridiculous when Gus Yalden is your three. But who is our three-point shooter? Do we have right? No, we talk about Richmond not being replaced and Bediako not being replaced and Dre not, but Dawes wasn't replaced. No one has stepped in to fill that. So maybe that's true with roster construction. Because I remember Willard saying, key of college basketball, shoot the three and defend the three. And last night, we did neither.
I'll tell you one thing real quick. Chris had a point there. I noticed this last game when I was there. David Tubeck, why isn't he playing more? He seems to have heart and he hustles. And he hits threes.
You guys.
Am I wrong? And Gisler, real quick, to piggyback on your question there for Chris. I know when I do some of these high school games and I'm behind the camera, that's the worst part. Because sometimes you get so involved in the game that you don't move the camera fast enough, and that's paramount. And the key to broadcasting is to follow the action. And sometimes the action gets so great, and I'm just like, I'm actually broadcasting. I can't do that, Yeah.
Chris Jones, anybody can announce a 2-point game, but blowouts are tough because you have to, one, stay interested yourself, and two, keep your audience interested. What were you guys doing last night to try to, keep everyone from clicking off?
It was rough. It was rough. We were trying to find any way humanly possible. I think at one point we were talking about how Flagman had a personal best laps last night. It was like we were just trying to pull anything out at that rate. It's not easy when it gets, again, down 15, 20, and then never mind 30 points. At that rate, you're trying to figure out anything. So as we're on break, we realized we're like, wow, Flagman's going. He's moving. And then we found out he was a personal best. So we did mention that at a point.
Before we get to Mr. Hathaway, who's waiting in the green room, I do have a comment about this. If you guys haven't noticed, and I have noticed it from games I'm there, we have a 7'4" raw center sitting on the bench. We've had a pretty good track record with 7'3" or 7'2" guys past couple years. Give this guy a shot. What are you waiting for, Coach Shaw? He can't be that raw if he's good enough to have a uniform on. And you don't teach height. You don't teach 7'4". Give this guy. I know he's one of those local guys who I think he's a walk-on this year and probably a scholarship player next year. But still, he's 7'4". Give him some experience, like Ike, like the other guy. I forget the other guy's name. I'm losing my mind at this second. They could surprise They could surprise you. Give this guy a shot.
Oh no, I agree. And here's the thing: there's no walk-ons there's no red shirts anymore because you don't know if the kid's going to be with you next year. So there's no that whole philosophy of redshirting a player is out the window. Just put him out there. He can't do any worse, right? Just let him. You never know.
Even last year, we had a good team, and we had that 6'11" kid, Muhammad, on the bench.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what he got. You never know. It might surprise you. Yeah. Again, we don't see practices, obviously, but there's a reason. But, give the fans something now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to bounce off that, Bobby. There are a lot of people that I'm friends with, a lot of my grade, we're all juniors. We came up with David Gabriel. We lived in AQ with David Gabriel our freshman year. He's a great kid. If you interact with him off the court, one-on-one, very fun to be around. Awesome guy. We get super excited when David Gabriel comes out there. So at the very least, if you're going to give him a couple minutes, just give the fans something to be excited about, that they're getting an opportunity. John Thomas, too. He was a resident in my building last year. I got very close with him. I have class with him this year. I sit with him. We talk about, our assignments all the time. Good kid, too. Maybe not going to put up the same kind of talent as some of our starters, so to speak, but just give the fans something to be excited about. We want to see John Thomas. We want to see David Gabriel. Even like you were talking about, our center, the raw center at 7'4". Give them a shot at least at this point. Give the fans something to at least be excited about, because right now this is not exciting basketball otherwise.
Gary Dreyfus joining us. Gary, what's up? Down here in Florida, where it's not icy, obviously. Yeah, trust Shaw. I'm sure he sees what he can do in practice. But like Nick just said, give the fans something now, right? We need, they get excited when Gus Bus comes out. They'll probably lose their mind when this kid comes out. And, hey, we never know what's going to happen. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on my good friend, Bill Hathaway. What's up, Bill?
Hey, what's up, fellas? Can you hear me?
The one and only William from Orange, my guy. How you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you guys doing? Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me on your show tonight. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. You're making history. You're our first ever guest on either show, really, right? And we should have Dan Dunn coming on soon, just so you know. He's probably our next guest for next week's show. So I'm sure Nick will appreciate that from the old school.
That's my man. That's my man, Nick from Millburn. When I started following Nick, man, at Seton Hall radio show, I thought he was a young college kid, man. and he was making sense, and he's well dedicated to the program, like all you other guys are.
Thank you, William. Thank you.
And real quick, Bill, and Nick from Melbourne, as you and I would recall, Jose Rambibas was a bench player who rarely saw the playing floor for those teams back in PJ's era. And look at him now. He was the head coach at William Patterson for years, and now is like the number 2 coach for the women's team. So some of these guys on the bench can do things, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The women's team has been very successful under Coach Tony, and they've been doing real well. Back in the day when I was covering Seton Hall, they had a Phyllis Mangini, and that's a long time. And now the women's program is prominent and very, very ongoing. Hopefully it'll be successful in the NCAA, and we'll see what happens.
Hey, Bobby, talking about walk-ons, do you remember Pete Dill? The legend of Dill? He was making ESPN all the time for like his dancing at the end of bench. He was like a good friend with Herb Pope, with that team of Bobby, with Herb Pope, Keane Lawrence, Greg Robinson.
I'm sure if I saw the videos, they started the whole bench thing, right? Where benches were getting on ESPN, right?
Yeah, exactly. And to Nick Morgan's point, David Gabriel from North Bergen, home of Danny Calandrillo and my future daughter-in-law, let him play. He can't do any worse, right? Give him a couple minutes here and there. It's not the end of the world.
And now we have Bill on screen with us. Let's move over for a few moments to Nick and Chris. Let's talk about the women's team. Now, I mentioned a question before the show. I'm going to mention it now. I'm going to mention the coach during the Coach Bosch show tomorrow. And I want to hear what the panel says. What you think is more important for the women's team? Make the NCAA or be a fairly dominant and successful team in NIT? Nick Morgan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think at this point, Chris talked about this in one of the pregame shows within the last week or so. I think you want to make the NCAA tournament. I think that's always the goal going into the season is to, put your name out there, get some recognition. And going back to Chris's point from earlier on, I don't want to steal your thunder, Chris, from what you're going to say here, but, you do have the young talent of Jada Eid and Savannah Catalan, and for even Faith Massonis, this is her last year playing college basketball. You want to give them the opportunity to shine on the biggest stage. And although I'd love to see us take home another trophy and to go far potentially, in the smaller tournament, I think just getting the Seton Hall's name out there and the recognition, especially with the year that the men are having, to give the fans, to give the program, to give the university something to celebrate by making March Madness. Who's to say we're even a first-round exit? Because at this point, we can really compete against the good teams. So to say first-round exit or, the WBIT, we might not be a first-round exit, and we could make a good run with this team because we have the likes and the talent of players to do so. So I personally would rather see our program for the women make the NCAA. But that's what I've got on there.
Chris?
Yeah, Nick said it perfectly. I do remember it was maybe in the last week or so we were asked this question, and I think NCAA is absolutely the way to go, strictly because Jada Eads is a freshman. I would like to see her get some footing in the NCAA tournament, get used to it, understand what the environment is like, what the pressure is like. Because with a player like her, a player like Savannah Catalan, as Nick was mentioning, they're young. They got time. So in the next year or two, you could absolutely find yourself back into that situation. So by that point, again, the next year or two, I'd rather them have the experience of what it's like in that environment. And then also for Faith Massonis, at least, Nick brought it up, this is her last year. If there's any time for her to go and have a great run, it's now. This is her last year. She wants to make at least her final impact in her college days. This is the way to go for her, at least. But I think like anyone who's calling us a possible or a most likely first round exit, to me is a bit wild because this is a team that when they're on fire, there's no stopping them. There's absolutely no chance you can stop them because their defense is lights out. They can create turnovers like it's their pastime. They can do it in their sleep. That's how good they are on defense. And then even offensively, when Jada Eid shoots good from three, and then when Faith is just doing it all over the place, down in the paint, behind the arc, you can't slow this team down. It's impossible. So for the sake of Jada Eads and Savannah, get to the NCAA tournament, get your foot wet, get your feet wet, whatever it is, understand what it's like, and then in the next year or two, make it even a bit of a better push.
Bill.
Yeah, so I'm going to stick with the NCAA tournament because I believe they're a very energetic team. They have a very talented team this year, and I think they can go a long way in NCAA because Seton Hall has always been shortchanged. Even with that run out, when they went to the championship game, I thought they got robbed because the game was actually played on a home court. I don't remember if Nick could remember
South Dakota
that.
State, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Well, that's South Dakota State when they were playing against a home team that played all their games home. Well, we got there every round on the road, and they were just exhausted by that time. Yep, you're right.
Exactly. I agree with that.
Nick, what do you think?
Absolutely 100% better to get into the big dance, the NCAA tournament. And like the men's team, if you get screwed, then go on and win the NIT. But the NCAA tournament is the goal. Absolutely.
By the way, I think I mentioned this last time for our new audience tonight. Jada Eads, I asked Coach about that in a previous show, and he said they were in California recruiting somebody else, but one of the coaches said, "Coach, you gotta check this player out." And here she is. And if you look at the roster of the women's team, they are all from all over the country. You got two from Minnesota, you got three from Florida, you got, so hats off to Coach Boz and his coaching staff to find this talent and bring them, east to the greater New York City area to succeed.
But the glue that is holding everyone together from the Shore area, Faith Massonis, that is the key. A true Jersey girl, went to Maryland, did her thing there, and said, I want to go home, and I want to be a Pirate, and I want to play for Coach Bazzelli. And, yeah, it's showing. She is the glue of this, a coach's daughter. She is the glue of this team, no doubt about it.
I agree. I agree with Nick, Bobby, because Faith Massonis is really brought this team to an energizer bunny. You know, she's all athlete. She, you know, it's like this when we were doing. I don't know if Bobby was at the last game or something when Matt brought the kids over, Jada Eads, and we got a chance to interview Jada Eads, and I think what's her name, the other. One of your guys, I can't remember his name. I'm looking right at him in the studio. He was at the game, and they brought Savannah Catalan and Jada over to us to do an interview. And I asked, I think it was Jada, um, who do you think, you know, is it by committee each night they have each player, you know, score? You know, it's a scoring machine right now, and they're doing and it energizes the campus, and they're doing well this year. And it's very commendable because they have a very good coaching staff. You know, they get the good morale of the crowds at the last couple games, a sellout crowd at Walsh Gym that energizes the crowd in the campus and even the community in South Orange. And I think this team can go to the NCAA, and they got talent. But always, if you probably agree with me, Nick. You follow Seton Hall. The NCAA always has it in for Seton Hall when it goes around tournament time, either reference to the Big East or even for the men's team. You know what I mean? When Woodward was there, or when how, you know what I mean? It just takes every time Seton Hall is shortchanged for some reason when they have a winning season.
Oh, absolutely. The example when we won the Big East tournament, we're the last, we're the last team on the board put in, and not the last team on the board, but we're the last selection made, and we got to fly all the way out to Colorado. They didn't even put us on the East Coast, and we weren't used to the altitude, and we run into Sabonis and Gonzaga, and our best player couldn't breathe, Isaiah Whitehead. So yeah, you're right. We have, and then when they send us, to play Kansas in Wichita, come on, and then last year, I forget who the head of the chairman committee was, but that guy's, drinking cocktails on the veranda, not even knowing who Seton Hall is. And he gave us one of the biggest snubs ever. So yeah, we're not respected. Absolutely. Talking about respect. Bill, you're right, William. Nick and Chris, what do you think about that? What do you think about how the NCAA looks at us in both men's and women?
The way I look at least, I'll always go back to last season at least. I felt like this was a team that was very close to the brink of getting in. Many people thought we got snubbed, that we should have been in, that we shouldn't, whatever it was. We were very close to being in. It's tough because I think what doesn't help us is that because we are in the Big East Conference, this is a basketball conference. We most of the time, and a lot of times, we kind of get overshadowed by those bigger teams: UConn, Creighton, Marquette, St. John's. They shadow us a lot of times, which I think doesn't help our case a lot. But at least since the time that I've been here, again, we've had good teams the past 2-3 years. Maybe we haven't gotten the respect that we would have deserved, but I'll always go back to last season because I do think that we had a chance to. Maybe we would have been a first round elimination, maybe so, but I think we should have at least gotten the respect of getting in.
Good segue there, because Gary posted the Rodney Dangerfield of the NCAA. Just as you said, no respect.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And as Tom mentioned also, and Coach Bozzella tweeted out today, Saturday's game is a national game, much-watched TV. And, Bill, I was not there in that game. And, of course, the game I missed, you get the good players to interview.
Yeah, I think it was Chris. I'm sorry, Chris. I didn't realize you were on the show. It was Chris. We were doing the interviews with Jada Eads and Savannah Catalan, and they had brought them out to talk to us, and I thought it was very good that it's by committee. Like each player, each player each night scores 15, 18 points, you know what I mean? Then they come off the bench. And I think Seton Hall women, they have a very good team. They had it last year. Since Tony Bozzella has been a coach there, they've been in the top runnings, but they always get the short end of the stick.
Hey, and Nick Morgan, I know you're there a lot for the women's games. Is it me, or does it seem like we have a lot of players who don't dress every game, but they'll dress some games.
Yes.
And how is that managed, right? I think that now we have Faith Masonius, right? And there's another girl there with the almost same last name.
Yes.
Who was New York Player of the Year? Wasn't she like last year or 2 years ago?
Yep.
Who hasn't dressed? She's dressed once all season. But like, what's going on there? It makes me, I sit there, I go, you look at the bench, it's like 15 girls sitting there. You know, and only play 5 at a time. So you wonder if it's like running a pro team where, all right, we're gonna not dress certain players, give them some rest, save them for end of the season, and you know, it seems like there's a shuffling of the roster pretty often under Coach Boz.
Definitely early on, for sure. I think Kaden Lawson was one of those who was like either dressed or not dressed, at least early on into the season. And now she's consistently, part of this team, and she's a core part of this team. She was tied for, the game high 11 points at Savannah Catalan in our loss to Creighton last night, 72-56. But it's now seeming to be more of the same girls who are consistently not dressed. I think it is definitely something that was interesting early on, kind of seeing Kaden Lawson. I want to say Janiyah Bland Fitzpatrick maybe was also one of those who was back and forth, dressed, not dressed. And she's played a big part being a secondary player off this team, coming off the bench and contributing for the Pirates under Bozzella. So it definitely is, interesting to see kind of the progression of this team from the start to now this year. But now I think we kind of have a routine. We kind of know who to expect when on the court for Bozzella. And it's more of a core, 7-8 girls that are consistently out there and really making their names well known for this team.
Very well, very well. By the way, I'm just checking real quick. For some reason, I'm still on the St. John's media list, and they released their NIL store today. So I'm curious to see what they have compared to what we have. So I'm going to look real quick. So, Bill, what else do you have for us as far as the media's point of view, and what do you think is going to happen with the men's team this offseason? Any predictions? Any forecasts? What do you see happening?
Well, I think what happens is, Bobby, with the men's team, Shaheen Holloway, he like Nick said it on the hall line, they always attacking him, because of the team performance. And unfortunately, we had the NIL, involved. I don't agree with the NIL, because the reason why I don't agree with it, it's just that it doesn't matter. You give athletes an opportunity to make money and all that. It just hurts the smaller schools like Seton Hall, where, just an example for Seton Hall. But Holloway, he came in his first season with 17-16. Last year he won an NIT championship, and he's just struggling. I mean, he's just trying to find his way to finish the season. Hopefully, next year it'll be a better season. The forecast should be a little better for recruiting, but you can't blame Shaheen Holloway, because he is a Pirate Blue all the way. His enthusiasm, his leadership, on and off the court, it doesn't, you can't help that some of these transfers, like Kadari left, a couple other kids, they just abandoned Seton Hall. I mean, the reason why they left, because of the money. That's the bottom line, because of the money, and it's unfortunate. But we'll see what happens in the off season. But they still got this season to win, to come up with a win. We just can't abandon them because they're on a losing streak. A lot of teams, not only in the Big East Conference. They've been losing. Look at some of the teams right now in college basketball, the smaller schools where they can't compete with NIL. Like look at Mountain University when they came up and played Seton Hall. The coach, speaking highly of Shaheen Holloway, but I think I think his recruitment of players, it's got to get better, and it will get better.
Real quick, maybe someone will know this offhand. Do we have any recruits in the pipeline? Is anybody signed for next year yet? Was there the one guard who was 2 years early or something?
Yeah, I think there might be. I thought there was, and I could be wrong. I thought we signed someone that still has a year left in high school. I could be wrong on that one. But other than that, I've not heard of anything else.
Yeah, so one thing we got to find for the show, everybody knows anybody, as we go forward. I think someone to come on the show once every couple weeks to update us on recruiting will be tremendous.
That's the weird thing about the way this has changed, right? There always used to be recruiting buzz and early signing, and with the NIL, everyone's sitting back and waiting to see who's going to put in for the transfer portal. It's changed everything. And William, my good friend from Orange, did Kadari abandon us, or did we, in essence, abandon Kadari by not giving him what he was worth?
Well, I mean, Nick, I mean, that's a tough question right there. I'm gonna to be honest with you, an athlete, a student athlete, like with the Kadari Richmond and Dre Davis, they have a mind of their own, so they made their minds up, and and they decided what they wanted to do, and they did what they had to do,
right,
for the benefit for them.
Right.
What I've seen is like someone had mentioned in the Facebook fan group that our budget this year, our war chest is 1.5 million, and I heard from St. John's people that they paid 1.4 for Kadari alone, so that leaves nothing for anybody else. So there's your answer right there.
Right, and Rapoli's matching up to $1 million besides what he normally donates. Yeah.
Coach, you got a little mentions there from Hello Coach Nick.
Christina Marie, how are you? A former coach herself, a Pirate supporter for since she was born. Thank you, Stia.
And as Tom, our esteemed, who's CEO, him or Patrick? Anyway, Tom, great response there. He did graduate and fulfilled his commitment to the school. So, like we said before, and I'm gonna say it again. It's not how he went, it's where he went. He had 125 other D1 college basketball programs to go to. He chose St. John's.
But he was. I'm going to put it this way. Yes, he chose St. John's, but he was a free agent. He was an unrestricted free agent who signed with St. John's because of their offer. Because as silly as it may sound, you have to look at it that way. Because that's what it has become. It is purely 100% transactional.
I want the perfect karma situation for us, for a little validation, little redemption. I want to see in the NCAA tournament, UConn versus St. John's, so I can root hard for our fellow alum Denny Hurley to knock off Patino and his nonsense and get him out of the tournament.
Good,
I would like nothing more than to see that happen. I don't know you guys. Now, isn't St. John's very high now?
Yeah, and the irony of this, and this would Nick and Chris, this would just kill me. Sweet 16 is at the Rock. Could you imagine if St. John's gets that seed and plays with Kadari Richmond on our home court? Oh my God, that's oh my God, and that very well could happen.
So Jones, another comment about Kadari. He's right. He's right. He's looking out for himself.
Yeah, I don't fault Kadari.
No, I was just that we're behind the 8 ball. By the way, now Nick from you guys just I haven't seen it yet. I know Nick from Milburn. You're there a lot. Bill, I'm not sure. We have our 2 students here who are still in the school. How is this new facility, and has anybody been in that place yet?
I bought a brick. I have a brick to it.
I also bought a brick. I haven't been inside yet.
So Nick, is that part of the NIL money?
No, unfortunately, the brick is not. It's my understanding the brick goes to Pirate Blue, which is fine, but it's not the NIL money. No.
Now what? Hold on. Time out. Nick from Milburn, explain to me. I'm confused too. What is Pirate Blue, and what's the difference, and why aren't they together?
The Pirate Blue is a school, and I'm no expert, and Tom Eccles knows this 1,000 times more than I do, but I'll do the best I can. Pirate Blue is run through the school, okay? It's a funding program from the university that goes to Seton Hall Athletics. The NIL is a collective, Onward Setonia, that is run by sponsors, boosters, and that is not from the school per se. That money, because when a kid comes, the school can't pay the kid. They'd have to get the money from the collective, which is separate from the school, and that's Onward Setonia. What did Tom say? I can't. Am I close?
No, Tom. He's mentioning before. Our one recruit is Darian Payday Moore.
Payday? How
yeah.
appropriate.
I don't want a payday. No payday. Give me Darian Lunch Pail Moore. Give me Darian Brown Plastic, lunch bag Moore. I don't want payday. He wants the money. I don't want that guy.
Show me the money.
So Bobby, you guys were mentioning about St. John's in Connecticut. Well, St. John's in Connecticut is playing tomorrow night on Fox. So we're going to see who's going to come up on top of that.
William, where's the game? Where's the game?
It's at Connecticut.
Let's go Hurley.
Danny.
Let's go fellow alum,
Go
baby. Let's go.
Danny.
By the way, I'm sorry. Hold on. Nicole asked who's joining her at the pre-16. Nicole, get on the show first. I know you're a great producer behind the scenes, but the world wants to see the Gitster on the show. Right, Nick? Right, guys?
Oh, I love Nicole. And Nicole, if you see my son at the Sweet 16, go. But Nicole, I want to see you at the Big East tournament. That's Thursday. I will be there. Anybody want to come and meet me and maybe have a cocktail or two? Please meet me at the Big East tournament because you never know what can happen. Hopefully we're playing. But, yeah.
Here's Tom's response to you, Nick. Pirate Blue money can go to revenue sharing salaries next year.
Next year, right.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. And Gary Dreyfus, again, one of the original members of our team here behind the scenes. And he's got a point, too. The problem with Kadary, like Gary says here, he waited until the end. Dre Davis was right away. He was out almost, wasn't he out pretty quick?
Yeah, he figured out he was going to Ole Miss not too long.
Okay. Gotcha. Nicole doesn't have any Big East tourney tickets.
Nicole, you know, Nicole, the person who I told you about the brick, make that phone call and tell him who you are, and I'm sure he'll sit you courtside.
Yeah. I'll believe it when I see it, Gister. All right, guys, we have a great show so far. Anything else going on that you want to discuss? Again, this is our first really episode. Like I said, we have Dan Dunn coming on soon. I talked to Dave Popkin about joining us one of these weeks. Marcus Toniel, I'll probably see in the high school basketball playoff world the next couple of weeks. I'll ask him to come on.
Speaking of Dan Dunn, what is Dan Dunn interesting about Dan Dunn's tenure as a Pirate that very few people can say? Anybody have any idea? Dan Dunn is one of the few people to have played for three different coaches: Bill Raftery, Hadi Mahan, PJ Carlissimo. So we might want to ask him about how that was. 4 years, three coaches at Seton Hall, never happened before.
I believe we and we'll talk about this offline about that, Nick.
Sure.
Kadary went through the pre-draft. Yeah, all right. That true. Good point, Tom. He went through the procedure. By the way, I've been reading some. I'm a Nets fan, so now we're getting to that mock draft season. Kadary's nowhere to be found yet, at least in the first round. But
Kadary, I mean, I'm going to go out, and I don't know what Nick Morgan and Chris Jones. I don't think Kadary's an NBA player. He has no three-point shot, and he's slow. So he's a perfect college player, deliberate style, and I think it took Pitino however many games to coach him the right way, like how Shaw did. I mean, come on, Rick. I'm not a rocket science, but I could watch tape. I know the best way to utilize Kadary. You were trying to make him a three-point shooter. Come on.
Yeah, if Miles Powell didn't make it, and I think he's a far superior player than Kadary Richmond, it's tough. And I know we have we have a few guys in the G League still. Most of the players from the bygone era, like we mentioned before, like Desi and those guys, they're all playing overseas now.
Yeah, Isaiah, I would say, is a lot better than Isaiah at one point was playing as well as anyone in the country. Isaiah is a lot better than Kadary, and Isaiah just, had a cup of coffee with the Nets. So yeah, it's
Isaiah should have stayed one more year. Isaiah stayed one more year. He could have been Player of the Year.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt about it. Yep.
Sometimes I see it too. I have my little pro basketball league I started in New York City in the Bronx area, and you see some of these players that have their little street agents and whatnot, and then sometimes they give them bad advice. Roden. Yes, Jared Roden's a hell of a player, and, better than Kadari Richmond.
Yeah, Jared Roden might have been my favorite player to watch. I'll never forget watching him out there on the court. He was iconically known for taking his jumpers from the elbow, from the wing, or whatever it was. The way he played in the paint was one of the best I've seen since being here at Seton Hall. I remember he was, I don't know, because he's been kind of jumping around every once in a while. He was on the Pistons. He was, I forget where else he went, but he's been hopping around a little bit here and there. But I'm just happy to see he made it to the league. I think right now
Sandro is still
Sandro
in the
did.
league.
I think Tyrese Samuel is on the G League, right? Or in the G League.
I think on the West Coast somewhere.
Yeah. So,
right.
okay, it's nice to see a few Pirates out there.
And I think Sandro was the best player to come out of our program in years, and he can't even crack. I mean, I'm a Nets fan. We send him here. I mean, he's stuck on the bench there behind Wemby, and he's never going to go anywhere.
Talking about Pirates in the NBA, William, you and I are the old timers. Glenn Mosley, right?
Yep. I remember Glenn Mosley.
Glenn Mosley, I think, went to San Antonio. He was like our first guy drafted. He had Mosley and Tynes started my love of Seton Hall Pirate basketball at Walsh. Greg Tynes and Glenn Mosley. William remembers them.
Greg Tynes is from Orange, New Jersey, brother.
Orange, New Jersey. And what, didn't he coach at West Orange?
He coached at West Orange, and he had a stint at Clifford Scott.
Yes. And Clifford Scott was a basketball hotbed back in the day, not to bore everyone, but they had some players, Clyde Bradshaw, that ended up going to DePaul when DePaul was a Final Four team.
When I was in the class and when I was at Orange High School, we were competing against Greg Tynes for the Essex County tournament one year.
The
and
Essex
he was
County
a great
tournament.
coach.
You guys don't know it, but the Essex County tournament was played at Walsh, and it was.
I remember.
Amazing.
I was told that.
It was played at Walsh, and it was like Kelly Tripucka. I don't know if you guys heard of him from Bloomfield. Kelly Tripucka went against East Orange, which was number one, and it was some great games there. Our Lady of the Valley from Orange, but not to digress. Yeah.
Matter of fact, I just came from East Orange. They were playing Seton Hall Prep, and Seton Hall Prep is number one in the county as of this year.
Oh wow, very nice. I might run into Avent's son this weekend at some of the Bergen County tournaments. Guys,
Bobby, are we on his radar?
We are, but at 7 and 20 seasons, not going to help anybody, right?
Yeah.
But before, it was always about opportunity and playing time,
and coaching up, right?
And coaching up. Now it's all about, let's see what I can get now.
It's about payday or whatever his name is.
Tyrese is in the G League for the Suns. Yeah, I thought he was somewhere on the West Coast. And Eddie Griffin, right? Was that our original 5-star recruit?
Number one recruit in the country we got. Guys, believe it or not, we had the number one recruiting class in the country one year. Marcus Toniel, Adrian Griffin, Andre Barrett. Number one class. Could that happen nowadays? I don't know.
Well, it did. It happened to Rutgers. Look at them right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Insert random Rutgers joke here. Okay. Here, another Scott Jones. Scott, thanks for replies today. That's why I don't blame Kadari for going. Make hay while the sun shines, because I don't feel he's NBA bound. Exactly. He made his money. And if he's smart, he'll hold on to that money somehow, right? No, you're fine. You're fine. As far as being behind. All right, so here we go. We have about 10 minutes to go or so. Great response from everybody with the questions. I love it. I'm checking my Instagram. Nothing's happening there, but it's happening here, which is great. It's better here. Any more topics you guys want to talk about the next couple of minutes?
Bobby,
Bill?
I have something for you.
All right, Nick, go ahead. Take it.
On the women, I know you have your Coach Boss show tomorrow too. If you maybe bring this up. I was doing some research. I was looking at some stats before we got on the call here. Just want to go over Savannah Catalans since her return. She missed her last game before injury was December 14th. She came back January 25th. So in the 4 games since she's been back, she's averaging just over 13 points a game, with her high in that 4 games stretch being 15 twice in games 2 and 3. And for Jada Eads in those games that Catalan has come back and returned, she's averaging about 12, a little under 13 points, 12.75 points a game. Now, while Catalan was out, Jada Eads in 8 games was averaging 19 points, routinely shooting a lot better percentage-wise, and she's still consistently out shooting Savannah Catalan, even in the games Catalan's been back. So I don't know if it's maybe something mentally, like Catalan's coming back and now it's not all like focuses on Jada Eads anymore. So now maybe she feels like she has to compete. So she's taking some shots that maybe she doesn't have a good shot of landing, just to kind of take some shots and chop something up there. But it's interesting to see in a smaller sample size, only 4 games since Catalan's been back compared to the 8 games while Catalan was out. But Jada Eads did do significantly better with Savannah sidelined. And I'd like to bring up on one of the pregame shows that maybe we can't play the what if game, but if Catalan wasn't missing time, is Jada Eads the star that she is today? And I think that's something interesting to kind of think about here and talk about. I don't know if you want to bring that up to Coach Tony tomorrow, see what he says, if he has any thoughts, or if you guys have any thoughts. But just, a little bit of drop off, which is about 7-point difference with Catalan present compared to not present with that injury for Jada Eads. So I don't know if you guys have anything to say on that, but Jada's still taking more shots consistently from the field and just shooting worse, clip-wise and point-wise.
Well, Nick, it's not so much even the scoring, which is, like you said, is a difference, but the charges on defense.
Yeah.
She takes about 2, 3 to 4 charges per game, Catalan.
Yep.
So she's a warrior in that respect on defense. So that was kind of missing a little bit when she was out, and now she gets back into the lineup, boom, charges, quite often, which is great for the defense.
I also kind of want to mention, Nick, you were saying the ability of Jada Eads when Savannah Catalan is in. If you want to specifically look at last game against Creighton, I don't see Jada wasn't a factor because she had 8 points, nothing too great. But the overall stats from her yesterday, she shot 2 for 13 from the field. So that was probably one of her worst games on the season. She was trying to shoot the ball up. She did not make a single 3 last time. Yeah, she was 0 for 4 from behind the arc, which is that's not normal from a player like her. So I think what we're seeing with Catalan coming back is, again, everyone will always say you want to have that all-star lineup throughout the entire starting 5, which I think that is what this team has with Amari Wright, Catalan, Lopes, Eads, and Masonis. But then the question does come up, is it too much firepower? Do you not know who to give the ball to? Or are you just trying to throw the ball around to see who can take a shot and if they're going to make it? Maybe when Jada was like the absolute number 1, that's when she played at her best. Yeah. But also just kind of looking at the overall season, I do want to mention, because we saw from the one and only Tom Eccles mentioned before that the game will be on FS1 upcoming. This has been a season or a team all season long. They've only lost 3 games in Big East play. 2 of them were to Creighton both times, and 1 of them was to UConn. Both those 2 teams are above us in Big East play. And you look at who we're coming up against. We're coming up against Xavier, who's 1-11 in Big East play. So this game specifically, Seton Hall is going to look to bounce back. They're going to look to have like a 20, 30-plus point win to really make sure that they stay up top near the Big East because, again, Creighton and UConn, they're powerhouses. It's going to be hard to stop them. Paige Becker's over at UConn playing lights out. And then for Creighton, I'm pretty sure Creighton has 2 players in the top 5 in like points per game in the Big East. So those are 2 teams that are hard to knock down, but definitely must watch this upcoming game.
One thing I noticed, Chris, with Jada Eads and that blowout at UConn a few weeks ago, she blew by Paige a couple times. Paige could not defend her.
It's because that's what Jada is, though. Jada is she's in smaller stature, but she's then fast. It's hard to slow her down because of how agile she is. She can blow past practically anyone because that's her style. That's her play.
And I tell you, we mentioned the firepower on the women's team. I think that's the beauty of an Amari Wright on being the point guard. She has fantastic handle and fantastic passer, but she's also very unselfish and is a distributor. That's what's great.
Yeah, because she was also I forget who I was talking about this. I don't know if it's true or not, but like Amari Wright's a player who she seems like she doesn't care to score. She seems like she would rather have her teammates score, get those 15, 20-point games she'd rather see that than herself get even 5 points. If she goes a game where she gets 0 points on the game but has like 15 assists, she's taking that any day of the week. That's the type of player that she is, and I think that helps a team like this when you have Jada, Masonis, Catalan players who can score 15, 20 points. You need someone like Amari Wright who can find the open lanes, who can find an open teammate. That's why she's, in my eyes, she's kind of underrated on this team just because she doesn't score. But I think without her, this is a completely different team.
And as coach will be the first to mention this and first to say this, he's also mentioned Shayla Pinckney.
Yep.
Who's like one of the glue players as well. So if she can get back by the time we get down to the March Madness, look out.
I also want to add on what Chris said. Amari doesn't look to score, but when she knows that the team needs to score and she has the ball, she will. And I think that's also something that you can really commend her for, because she's not afraid to drive to the basket and put one up or to shoot a three if she knows that she needs it and she feels confident in herself, because she can make the baskets in the clutch and in like desperate times when they call for desperate measures. She's there and she can shoot and she can make the basket to get this team back and to shift the momentum back in Seton Hall's favor.
All right. Great. I think it's a great first show, fellas. Thanks you. Gets her final comment about Amari. Any other topics you want to bring up?
Yeah, let me just say, Sunday Super Bowl Sunday, and I don't know who you guys are going for. I'm going for Taylor Swift. I mean the Kansas City Chiefs. Christina got that out for you. But okay, circa 1982, and I don't know if William from Orange remembers this. We were big time. We were one of the best teams in the country. We were like ranked up to like third. And yes, that is possible. And we played at Byrne Arena, Continental, whatever you want to call it. 19,000 people, Super Bowl Sunday.
I remember
Ohio
that.
State, and who is their point guard, William? Who is their star?
Oh, I can't remember that.
Clark Kellogg.
Say it again.
Clark Kellogg.
Okay.
Well, Nick, I remember when I was in school, maybe 10 years, 92.
Yeah, 92.
I was 88 to 92.
Yeah.
We had a lot of games on Super Bowl Sunday.
Super Bowl Sunday, yeah.
We have a game at 1:00, and we come home and start, partying. Giants were good back then. So
Absolutely.
We had that, yeah.
Yeah, we were on CBS at 12 noon, getting right before the Super Bowl pregame show. Amazing. So it is possible, guys. It is. You never know. Things could change.
We have some more response here to the next question. Go Taylor's boyfriend. I saw him before on one of the TV shows. There's odds out there of whether they would get engaged after the game or not. You actually bet on that.
To Christina and Nicole, is there going to be a proposal after the game? Nicole, Christina, guys, what do you think?
Gary can't root for either.
Gary thinks there's a proposal?
Now you can't root for either team. Now I'm a Steelers and Giants fan, as you can't see from here too much. The Steelers are over there, Giants are over there. But there's no way in hell I can ever root for the Eagles. No way in hell.
So Bobby, are you a Swiftie then?
Nah.
No.
As a DJ for 40 years, no, I'm not a Swiftie. Do I have to play a song sometimes? Do I like it? Now, mind you, my favorite band of all time, besides Pink Floyd, are the Eagles. So it's a fine line between the Eagles, Don Henley, and what we're going to see on the field Sunday. Bill, who do you got this weekend?
Joe Walsh is at the table for every game.
I got Kansas City.
What
you
table?
Got Kansas City. We got 2 for Kansas City. Mr. Morgan, who do you have?
Going Chiefs. Keep it going.
3 for Kansas City. Oh, Chris.
I think I'm going to have to make it 4. I'm going to say same as Bobby. I'm a Giants fan. I love Saquon. I absolutely do. I love the season he had. It would pain me to root for the Eagles.
And I'm number 5. Nicole's a Cowboy fan? No, Nicole, you aren't a front runner. Well, I guess in your lifetime they haven't been good, so I guess you aren't a front runner.
The last time the Cowboys were a team, Nicole, were you even born yet? Right? 95, right? Was that the last time they were good, the Cowboys?
Does Nicole know who Tom Landry is?
Oh, she'll get to it. Gary, love Barkley, can root for the Eagles. That's 6-0.
6-0.
Nicole is rooting for the Chiefs, obviously. Tom's up there in Buffalo
everybody's
country.
rooting for the Chiefs.
Yeah, Tom's up there in Buffalo country, and he's rooting for KC. Nicole cannot root for division rivals, and she was born in 2000, so no, she has not seen a successful Cowboys team.
So she's not a front runner. I apologize.
Yeah, all right, you're good then. We do have one Eagles fan, Scott Jones. Fly, Eagles, fly.
I think I'm gonna have to step in on this one. Scott Jones, he's my dad. So he loves Saquon. He absolutely does. That's kind of why he says that. Me and him argue about that all the time. I don't understand how he can root for a division rival, but you see he is. So
last time Dallas won the Super Bowl was the year my parents got married, 96. Hey, I got married in 96 too. And bad year. Gary remembers Roger Staubach. Oh boy.
What about Don Meredith?
Don Meredith. By the way, Saquon has won the Offensive Player of the Year award. We got some scrolling messages during our show here. I guess they're doing the NFL awards tonight. So he won that. All right, guys and gals, thanks for joining us. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun with this show. Like I said, this show is a little more relaxed. We're not against time, not against tip-offs, and I do miss Stack Monster running around. His house. He's not at the game, so he's probably working tonight. Bill, thanks for joining us. I will see you on Press Row soon. Chris, you got to find out who did. I was at the game
see you Saturday. I will see you Saturday.
I will not be there. I'll have to work, unfortunately. I'm there for UConn this year, which I'm excited about because we all love it. A nice 45-minute presser by Gino Auriemma as he invades the whole press room for a good 40 minutes to talk whatever.
I will be. Wait. You guys are going to be at the. I'm going to be at the UConn game. I got my tickets. And you, the other Mr. Jones and Mr. Morgan, you going to be at the UConn game?
Yes, I will.
We should kind of figure something out. That would be cool.
I'm actually planning on going to the depending on the days if I'm working at the resort or not. But I'm actually looking forward to maybe going to the women's Big East tournament this year and supporting them as well.
I'll be there with the band. Yep.
Excellent. We got a few more. CD Lamb's my favorite Cowboy, obviously. Not a bad guy. Breaking news about the Hall of Fame. Did Eli Manning make it? I don't know. Stack Monster owes us push-ups. Yes, he does. Thank you, Tom, our general behind the scenes. Gary, thank you for joining us from warm Florida as we all freeze our tails off in an ice storm with 2 more storms to come in this week. One storm on Saturday, one storm on Tuesday. So,
speaking of our executives, is Patrick there? Are you watching, Patrick? We love you, Patrick.
Yeah. Patrick's he was on last time for the pregame show. I didn't see him report in today, but he might be there.
No. We'll
see. But again, thanks, John. I think this is something we can do on a weekly basis. We got some great guests coming up. And even though you may watch this after the fact, leave us some comments. We all see it. We all respond to it. And we'll be back. We'll check on the schedule after the weekend. Again, we're going to do nights where Eli did not make the Hall of Fame. It just came through now. Eli did not make it. And in all honesty, love Eli. He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. So that all's right in the world with that. His brother, yes. Him, no.
No.
So we'll see over the weekend what the schedule looks like next week. I know as the February progresses, the games get fewer and far between and whatnot as we get towards March Madness. But we'll be back again next week. Yes, Gary, 80 and I'm jealous. And I'm sure that's the mom, Chris's mom. Great show.
Mrs.
Okay,
Chris,
right,
thank you, Mrs. Chris. You got a great son, Mrs. Chris.
Who was at the game last? What game was I at last week? Who we lose to last week at home?
Are you saying men's?
Men, yeah.
DePaul.
Was it DePaul? At home?
Were we home or I know DePaul was the last loss we had.
I was at a game. I was at the game last week. I was right in front of SOU. That's where I usually sit, in front of SOU, right?
The last home game was Providence.
Providence. Yeah. And that was a close game to the end, right? They were catching up. And I forget who it was. I think it was the guy from Providence who plays for us now. Jocked up this shot from like top of the key, overshot the backboard, hits the backboard, comes flying towards me, and I'm sitting there. And it was me and Jason Garrett next to me, right? And all of a sudden, I'm like, all right, there's no way I'm catching this ball. So I kind of deflected it, goes over the head of SOU, and they actually acknowledged it on camera. Great job, Bobby. You saved us. Because if I didn't do that, that board you have for the broadcast would have been smashed.
Hey, Bobby, and Chris can testify to this. SOU wasn't going to catch it. The T-shirt toss, they threw it up to the SOU announcers, and I'm not going to say who, but she may have had Butterfingers.
I do remember that. Yeah, we'll keep the name a little.
We'll keep her quiet. I love her, but yeah, it was. She's not going to play on a WSOU softball team.
Yeah.
Okay, as Tom mentioned, we have a bye week coming up, so we'll find a day next week. We'll get Dan Dunn on. Bill, again, thanks for joining us. And if you haven't done so, Bill, join our Facebook group.
For having me.
Bill, have you joined the Facebook group yet?
No, I will.
Yeah, I'll send you an invite. Because, join us. We have a great time in that group. And
send me the invite.
Yeah, well, it's a great group. We have, we're like 6,500 strong now. I think when Patrick took over, it was like 4,000, right? Now we're almost 6,500. So we're growing, and they're very engaging.
I would love. Hey, Bobby, I would love to come on a pregame show on Saturday before the Seton Hall Georgetown game.
Yeah. What time's the game Saturday?
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock Saturday. I will. All right. I'll do the show from the resort before I come home. Very good. As Tom said, 6,200 fans strong and growing. On behalf of Nick from Milburn, Nick the Kid, Bill Hathaway below me, Chris Jones from SOU down there. This is Bobby Blackjack. Oh, hold on. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, Pat took over with 3,500. We're now almost 3,000 more than that. On behalf of my crew here, this is Hall Hoops and Happenings. And hey, maybe one day soon when the weather breaks, we'll talk some baseball too. Peace out. Enjoy the games this week. Go Pirates.